If you want a little spoiler to my next top 10 series of all time list, here's one. Discworld by Terry Pratchett is going to be very high on that list, and that is very much in part to the Moist von Lipwig books. Welcome to the channel. My name is Dylan. I love big epic fantasy, big wizardly reads, but sometimes they're a bit too much for me and I can space out whilst reading them. So I need to take a little break, read some shorter, more lighthearted, more whimsical books so I can get back into those big dark epic fantasies that I love. So I found the absolute perfect palate cleanser book for my big epic fantasy reads, Discworld by Terry Pratchett. Now these aren't just light books that you can turn your brain off whilst reading. The Discworld books are full of wit, satire, social commentary, and just a ton of jokes that you have to pay attention to keep up with. They're always super interesting and have a ton of good points. And Terry Pratchett is an absolute masterful writer. He's able to include all of those things in his stories that are quirky, whimsical, action-packed, and just so much fun. Every book is just a punch to the face of jelly beans. You get so much goodness coming right at you. Now, Terry Pratchett's Discworld is comprised of a lot of different books and series that you can read in a chronological order, or you can pick and choose to read them at your own will. I chose to pick and choose them and just went with the stories that called me the most. And here's a guide that I use to help me understand which books fit where. I started with the Moist von Lipwig books with Going Postal, and I've also read Guards, the first book of the Night's Watch series. These have all been 4 to 4.5 out of 5 reads for me. Just absolute perfection. So much fun, so much wit, satire, and there's always a good message behind each book. Now, what makes the Moist von Lipwig books so good? Firstly, let's talk about the story. What's the main premise? Well, Moist is a con artist. He has been robbing people blind for years, just committing fraud left, right, and centre and stealing thousands of dollars. But Moist's crimes have finally caught up with him. He's now been caught in the town of Ankh-Morpork, and the patrician Vinatieri has given Moist the choice of the hangman's noose or using his con artist skills to help bring up the post office. And this is in the book Going Postal. So choosing not to die, Moist becomes the Postmaster General in an attempt to live a bit longer and hopefully escape from his duties here and go back to his ways as a con artist. But quickly, Moist finds he's not going to be able to escape as easily as he thought he would, so he has to go into helping the post office. The post office has been out of action for about 40 years since the rise of the clack system, which you can kind of see as another variation of the telegraph. And the clacks at the moment have a monopoly on the communication industry. So Moist has to go up against some of the richest businessmen in all of Ankh-Morpork, and he gets to use a lot of his con artist skills in bringing the post office back to its former glory. And in the following 2 books in the Moist von Lipwig's trilogy, we have Making Money and Raising Steam, where after getting the post office running again, Moist gets put in charge of getting a bank back in order, and we get a lot of references to economy and how banks work in this one. And then the last book, we get Raising Steam, where Moist is helping a few people set up the first railway. And this one, I had to talk to my friend about what the main premise of the series is, and it's about just how the world doesn't stop. Things are going to always be progressing. There's always going to be something new, something changing, and we've got to go with the times and find a way to make them work. But across this series, where Moist is always doing things for the public good to help other people, where he's still trying to help himself, he's still that con artist at heart, but he's growing and learning and becoming someone that wants to help other people as well. And he's realizing the wrongs of his previous life and coming to enjoy using his cheeky abilities for the right side. And alongside Moist, we get a really fun group of characters that come along with him. We get a love interest in Adora Bell. We get some quirky post office workers, one who's been there for way too long, one who's got an obsession with collecting, and stamps haven't yet been invented before Going Postal starts. Then one of my favourite characters from Discworld as a whole is the patrician of Ankh-Morpork, but he's basically a tyrant dictator, and that's Vinatieri. Now, one thing with the Discworld books that took me a little bit to get used to is Terry's writing style. It's very whimsical, it's very fairy tale-esque, and it took me just a little bit to get used to, but after a few chapters, I was fully invested. So if you're looking for stories that are more lighthearted, more funny, and more comedic than the big, dark, epic fantasies that you normally read, but you want something that still has you thinking and turned on and using your brain, the Discworld books are a breath of fresh air, and I highly recommend them. And I love Going Postal, and I recently just watched the Going Postal movie adaptation. It was made about 15 years ago, and it is a top 10 movie of all time for me now. I had the funnest time reading it. The actors, the cast, the writers all did a fantastic job keeping the tone of Discworld, keeping the light-hearted fun, but also having it be invested in and connected to the characters. And they even made some changes that I felt elevated the story and made it even better for the TV medium. And I was very happy with them. And they've got Charles Dance acting as the patrician, which is just so perfect. I loved that so much. And the romance in the movie was even better than the romance in the book. I love this movie. Top 10 all time for me. Probably not for most people, but if you like Discworld, definitely a movie to check out. The last thing I want to talk about with you guys today is starting Discworld and which books. The most common recommendation you'll see is Guards. That's book one of the Night's Watch series, set a bit before the Moist von Lipwig books. The Night's Watch in Ankh-Morpork hasn't really been doing much for quite a few years. They more avoid crime than try to prevent and stop crime, and Ankh-Morpork is more ran by their Thieves Guild than by the Night's Watch. But in Guards, the Night's Watch get a new member, and this new member is so enthusiastic and so capable. He just goes straight into the city and starts doing good, starts doing what the Night's Watch should be doing, and kind of kicks the butts of the other members into starting to do the right thing. And they are starting to bring a bit more order into Ankh-Morpork. Right when this is happening, there is a group scheming to take over the city. In the first chapter of the book, so mild spoilers, we find out that this group wants to start summoning a dragon so that then one of their people can stop this dragon and be seen as the king and savior of this city to take over. So we get a goofy bunch of Night's Watch members trying to get their act together whilst this scheming group is going on. There's dragons around the city, and it is a fun time, and definitely is a great starting point for Discworld. I'd also recommend going Postal, and if you want to go chronologically, you can start with The Colour of Magic. I don't think there's many wrong points as long as you're not starting midway through one of the sub-series. You'll have a great time. I hope you check out Discworld. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you.